everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my channel. The holidays are swiftly approaching and the season of gift giving is upon us. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm actually pretty bad at receiving gifts. I really like receiving gifts that are useful and that aren't just going to clutter up space in my small house. But of course, the problem is I never know what to ask for. Are you like me? If so, this video should help. I have compiled a list of some of my favorite tools for historical costuming. Primarily, these are going to be sewing tools, but I also have a few book recommendations for historical costuming as well. I won't be including any pre-made clothing, sewing kits, or accessories, or anything like that, but do let me know in the comments if you would like me to make a video like that before the holidays get here. Some of these I have recommended on my channel before, but this should give you a very nice and easy digest to go through. I have linked my Amazon affiliate store, which includes most of these items, in the description below, and have included many of the other links not in the Amazon storefront as well. It really helps me out if you could use my links. I've divided this list into sections based on what kind of item it is. Let's go ahead and get started with my favorite marking tools. The first tool, and probably one of my most used tools in my sewing room, are friction pens. I buy them by the box and use them on any fabric that is not dark colored. Friction pens are heat erase pens, so all you have to do is draw on your fabric and then run your iron over it to remove the marks. Do test the pens on a small corner of your project first, as I have come across a few fabrics that they do not fully erase from, but on the majority of fabrics, they disappear completely. I prefer the highlighter pens because they're so juicy that they draw very well without needing to push them at all into the fabric. And I always like to use the pink as it shows up great and it's so bright and cheery. When I'm working with a fabric that's dark colored on which friction pens won't show up, I opt for my Choco Liner instead. The Choco Liner pen has a little wheel that distributes white chalk powder in a fine, narrow line. You can get refills for your Choco Liners and they come in multiple colors, although I only ever use the white. Let's move on to cutting tools, starting with my Ginger scissors. I love Ginger scissors. I think they work so well. I received my pair of spring-loaded Ginger scissors as a gift in 2010, and I've never even needed to sharpen them. I like the spring-loaded version. They feel very easy in my hand and never give me any wrist problems. While we're talking about gingers, I absolutely adore my curved applique scissors. They have such a nice fine point that not only are they great for applique, but they're wonderful thread snips, getting you right next to the fabric. In fact, the point is so fine that you can even rip out seams with them. Speaking of seam rippers, I highly recommend the White Clover seam rippers. They're nice and fine, super sharp, and I think everyone should have like 3 of them on hand, because if you're anything like me, I can only ever find 1 to 2 out of 3 of them anyway. Next up is a buttonhole punch. A lot of people open up their buttonholes with seam rippers, but if you're not super careful, you can pretty easily find yourself ripping through the end of your buttonhole. Buttonhole punches solve that. You just press the little blade down into your buttonhole and it cuts it right open. So much easier. While we're still on the topic of cutters, I highly recommend having tin snips on hand. I actually use mine more to cut German plastic boning than I use it to cut metal, but it works great for cutting hoop wire as well. I really like having a pair of fold-up thread snips to take with me for sewing on the go. The fold-up style means that you don't have to worry about it poking through your project or the bag you're carrying your sewing in. And they have a nice small blade to snip all your threads. When you go to cut long strips of fabric like bias strips, petticoat ruffles, etc., a rotary cutter and cutting mat combo is definitely your friend. You can also get rotary blades with scallop or pinking shapes, which can really help for doing 18th century trim. I've seen many people use rotary cutters for more of their cutting as well, but I prefer to save mine only for when I can use it along a nice sturdy ruler. Speaking of rulers, let's move on to the next section, measuring tools. I like having a few clear plastic rulers on hand in various sizes. Personally, I have found my favorite combo of rulers to be a 36 by 4 inch ruler, a 25 by 3 inch ruler, and an 18 by 3 inch ruler. I use my rulers so often. I also like to always have multiple measuring tapes on hand because, like seam rippers, I never seem to be able to find them when I need them. So I like having at least 2 to 3 measuring tapes out in my sewing room, and I also tend to keep a retractable one handy in my purse. You never know when you might need a measuring tape. Now for pressing tools. First, a pressing ham. I don't know how people press anything without owning a pressing ham. So if you don't have a pressing ham already, please put this at the top of your wish list. These are integral to pressing curved seams, such as those in bodices. Similarly, I recommend having a sleeve ham. This kind of goes along with the pressing ham, but this is longer, narrower, and less curvy, so you can get it into the places that the ham can't fit, particularly within your sleeves. Likewise, a sleeve board is so handy. Not only are these great for pressing your sleeve seams, but they can also act just like a tiny little ironing board so that you can get into those little places you can't access if you're working with a larger board. Another often overlooked pressing tool is a bias tape maker. These things are so easy to use. You just cut strips of bias fabric, feed the fabric into the tool, and it will fold it for you. Just pull the strip out from underneath your iron, and you have perfect bias tape. These come in multiple sizes for various widths of bias tape. Naturally, for all of these, you also need a good iron. Now, a lot of people really like big, fancy commercial type irons, but honestly, I love my little $20 to $30 Sunbeam irons. I've had better luck with Sunbeam Irons than any other brand, have never had a leaking problem, and they are great at releasing steam. Plus, even if it only lasts you a few years, you didn't spend much on it in the first place. The next two tools are not quite pressing tools, but you tend to use them just before pressing fabric into place. The first is a point turner, perfect for getting all your turned points nice and sharp. And the second are tube turners. If you need to turn long tubes like sashes or ties, these are fantastic. Just put the tube turner into your tube, stick the little wire piece inside, twist it into your seam, and pull your tube through the metal tube. So much easier than any other option. Next up, dress forms. Dress forms are so useful for fitting garments. There are many options out there for dress forms. Of the dress forms I have, one is a purchased hard foam pinnable form, which isn't adjustable, but is nice and sturdy, and the other one is a bootstrap form. Bootstrap makes patterns custom to your measurements, which you can print yourself and create your own form. Although mine wasn't an exact copy of my shape, it's pretty darn close, closer than the standard size foam form. I did a whole video on the making of my bootstrap form, which I've linked in the description in case you want to learn more. Next, let's move on to the big ticket items. Sewing machines. Everyone has their favorite sewing machine brand or model. Although I'm not here to recommend any particular models, if someone is up for giving you a more expensive gift, a sewing machine is a great idea. When you're an absolute beginner, it's okay to work with one of those cheapo $100 machines, but when it comes time to upgrade, I highly recommend starting at around the $400+ range. These machines will have metal parts inside and be nice and sturdy for all of your projects and last you a long time. Brother in particular has great machines starting at this price point. Expect to pay more for higher end Brothers or Baby Locks or basically any Bernina, Pfaff, or Viking, and I do not recommend modern Singer sewing machines. Once you have your sewing machine needs taken care of, sergers are also another great higher end gift. A great entry-level serger is the Brother 1034D, which is $250 on Amazon. But if you're really able to spring for it, ask for, or buy yourself, a Baby Lock air-threaded serger. Believe me, you'll thank me later. If you're already covered on sewing machines, then let's talk about their accessories. In other words, my favorite sewing machine feet. These are the ones beyond the basic feet that come with most machines. First, a Ruffler Foot. Oh my gosh, these things are so handy. They take tiny pleats in your fabric and draw everything up into neat little ruffles. Next, a walking foot. Every sewing machine has feed dogs in the needle plate underneath your sewing machine foot, but that means that sometimes your bottom layer of fabric feeds faster than your top. So a walking foot fixes that, making both your layers feed evenly. Third, an invisible zipper foot. This is not really helpful for historical costuming, but if you're doing vintage or modern sewing like I also do, and you're setting in invisible zippers, this foot is a must. And my final favorite foot, a piping foot. The little indentation in this foot makes sewing piping so much easier. Now that we've covered all of my favorite sewing tools, I do want to touch briefly on a few of my favorite costuming books. Let me know if you'd be interested in a video on all of the costuming books on my bookshelf, but for now, these are just my top 4 recommendations. And I do have to preface this by saying that the first 3 of these are out of print, but if you can get a copy for a reasonable price, definitely do. My number 1 recommendation is Period Costume for Stage and Screen by Jean Hunnessett. There are a few of these books, but the two that I recommend are the ones from 1600 to 1800 and the one from 1800 to 1909. If you've been around my channel much at all, you have heard me talking about this book because I use it so often. Almost all of my skirts come from this book, plus some of my bodices, and the gridded patterns are great. Next, Patterns of Fashion by Janet Arnold. Most people have probably heard of these books, which have been out of print for a while now, but they're full of wonderful gridded patterns taken from extant garments. The School of Historical Dress will be re-releasing these next year, so even if you can't get them for the holidays this year, keep your eye out for them when they do become available. Third is Costume in Detail by Nancy Bradfield. An amazing book full of line drawings of extant garments from 1730 to 1930 with notes on construction details. So much valuable information. And lastly, Shoes, Hats, and Fashion Accessories, a Pictorial Archive. I have owned this book forever, and it is so wonderful. It shows shoes, purses, hats, and other accessories, and is broken down and labeled from year to year. I love cracking this open and seeing the evolution of the styles, and it's so handy to just look at a year and say, oh yeah, I need my hat to look like that. And that's it for today's gift guide of my favorite sewing tools. Hopefully, if you were unsure of what to ask for the holidays, or if you're like me, unsure of what to get yourself when the sales pop up for Black Friday, the list will have given you a few ideas. Leave me a comment if there's something in particular that you're excited to hopefully add to your own sewing tools, and also comment below if I've missed a tool that you love. I want to know what to get myself. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful for you. If you liked this video, please make sure to click the thumbs up button. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please make sure to click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a video. I do post videos here to YouTube twice a week with my sewing vlogs on Tuesdays and regular content like this out on Fridays, but I post every day to my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. It's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. I also have a link to my Ko-fi account below if you would further like to help support this channel and maybe help me buy some fun new sewing tools for the holidays for myself. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!